Hi YouTube, this is another video that I'm bringing you here today. This one's going to be one of our first business videos, and this is going to be how to marketplace flip. This is one of my favorite things to do because it's quite simple, doesn't take too much effort, and a lot of people should be doing it but aren't. This is also phenomenal because it has a low point of entry. Almost anyone could do it, and even if you don't have any money now, the beautiful thing about Facebook Marketplace is you can start by selling something you already have to give you a little cash flow to go into doing this. You don't need a lot of money. It all depends on what opportunities open up, what deals pop up. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, or sometimes you can just keep moving a lot of volume of stuff. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to look on Facebook to find items, and then from there, I will give you a rundown of what the process typically looks like, and then I will show you how to compare pricing and how to check what items are going for. Also give you a heads up of what items to avoid, what to look for in some items, and what to be a little bit cautious about, because at the end of the day, you're going to be going in person to meet someone, and there's some certain precautions that I would recommend you take. Alright, so this is my Facebook page. My recommendations, I am in Kansas City, Missouri, so I will lower this to 10-mile radius, okay? You typically want to find something that's going to be close enough to you, because you don't want to be making too far of drives unless the deal is worth it. I've had some deals where it definitely wasn't worth making the drive, but for most cases, you want to stick around 10-20 minutes away. Alright, so I'm going to start off by searching camera. So here we have a couple options. So right off the bat, here in Greenwood, Missouri, somebody has a Canon Rebel EOS T6 camera. So I would look at this. Now, one thing I highly recommend is if you get into this, you stick to a niche. That's typically going to be the best way that you can make money. Sticking to a niche, learning the niche, and just constantly searching your niche market. Some of my niches were cameras. Other niches that I had were sound audio equipment, receivers. That worked really well for me. Pokemon cards. But you have to know about these niches to be able to identify common issues in the products you're looking at, counterfeits, etc., etc. So in this, I have a good understanding of this market, so let me look. Now, I haven't done this in a while, but I will show you what I typically would do to identify if this is a good flip or not. So first off the bat, we have a EOS T6 camera. Now I want to see this because there's a T6 and a T6i. T6i is typically a little more valuable. What I can tell is it has a lens attached. So typically when people list cameras, they just list it at the price of the body. Sometimes if they have a really good lens, it typically goes for a lot more. This, for example, is a kit lens, so it's an 18 to 55 millimeter. You can't see it there, but like I said, I have a little experience with these. So it is a T6. So it is an actual T6. So another indicator for me would be the T6Is, or the eyes typically have a flip screen. All right, but that camera in general looked in good shape, but I don't know what the market is for them. So I would look up Canon T6 camera. All right, and then I actually scroll down all the way to sold items. All right, so right now the going rate, and this is straight, I believe this makes it a Canon authorized seller. Yep, it says right here. So the going rate for these is 200 plus 15 plus tax. So that means if someone was to buy this today, they'd pay 215 plus tax. So that's about 240. So in this instance, this camera going for 150 with a bag, no charger though, but that's fine, is going for 150 versus about 260. So this is what I would call a smaller size flip, but it's a good flip, right? So as long as the camera works and it's in good condition, then you can expect here to make about 50 bucks. I would buy this for 150, maybe talk them down a little bit, 125, 130. I typically like doing $25 cuts, etc. Some people just want to sell the items And that margin helps a lot because it adds up. If you do 4 deals where you're cutting $25, it adds up. Now, I will say though, because $25 to 150 is like a 10-15%, makes a little more sense. If you're trying to get $25 off a $50 item, it's likely not going to happen. All right. So let's look at some couple more options. All right. We got another one here. So this is a T3i with a 55 to 250 millimeter lens, as well as an 18 to 55 millimeter. So this is at $500. I already know off the bat this is not going to be worth it, but I will show you guys what I would be looking at. So we will put 3i. So the T3i by itself, just the body, goes for $140. This person, $156 plus $8. So you're talking about $160, and then the 80. I forget what the lens is. 55 to 250 through 250 millimeter Canon. All right, that goes for $115. So obviously they're asking way too much for this. Not worth it. Well, let's keep going. Also, I'm going to put this one out. This is a very, very expensive piece of equipment. When you get into these super high-end cameras, high-end equipment, just be cautious. Just this lens alone is worth a couple $100. So realistically, it's probably a scam. How identify scams? Let's actually go through that. So let's go seller details. They only have one active listing. This picture looks fake. No other description, no other sales, joined in 2024. Already off the bat, that's not a great start. View profile, updated her profile, account made yesterday. Immediately that tells me it's just fake. I check the picture and there's no likes, no reactions, nothing. This is a fake and it's a scam. So avoid it. That's typically how I would identify that. All right, let's keep going a little bit more. Let's see. Now these are a little bit older. Let's see. And you won't always find deals, but the market is so big that if you keep searching, get a couple niches down, then you should be pretty set. Okay, we can look at this lens here. So here we have a Sony 28 to 70 millimeter. They're asking $150. We're gonna go ahead and copy that, and they did the work for you. Just copy and paste. Okay, so here we see two different things. So this one came out of Japan, and this one's local. Let's look what else. So keep looking, doing a little more research. All right, so we see it goes for about 160. So this one is marked pretty competitively. Once again, if you wanted to do a really small deal, but I really wouldn't at this point, I would maybe ask for 125 and then relist for 150, 160. The big thing about Facebook Marketplace is you want to buy items that people are willing to buy locally. That is the benefit of using Facebook Marketplace, because when you list on eBay, it would have to be an item with massive margins because you lose so much selling on eBay. You don't do that on Facebook. It's free to list. Nobody gets fees. Overall, it's a good platform. So I wanna get a good opportunity here. So we're gonna keep looking, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about what meeting would typically look like. All right. Let's see. Okay, this is a good example, and this is actually one I was looking at. So this is a Sigma 30 millimeter. Let's see, micro four thirds lens. I'm actually in the market for one of these because I just got a G7. That's the new camera I'm using for filming. So once again, this one goes for about 200. This one, someone got it for 150. So this, I could probably talk them down from this. And I would, even if you get it for the same price of eBay, you're going to save money because you're not going to be paying the taxes on it. Okay, let's look at this one. This seems pretty promising. This has been, so one thing that is red flag for me is that it's been up for 8 weeks. But let's see. So we have a 12 to 60 millimeter. I don't know the exact names of these lenses. So in this instance, we're going to zoom into the camera. I can't really see much. So what I'm just going to look up is 12 to 60 Lumix lens and see if anything comparable pops up. Lumix. All right. So this looks comparable. Yeah, that looks comparable. So right off the bat, that lens goes for about 160. That's a good sign. He's asking 500. All right, so we have a 25 now. So we're gonna put a 25 millimeter here. Lumix. Okay, so the lens goes for about 100. So now we're talking about 100 plus 100 plus 160. So now we're looking at 260. Okay, so how much does the G85 go for? Okay, so it goes for about 300 to 400. I always go with lowest. So we're looking at 310 plus 100 plus 160. So 260 plus 310, 570. So he's asking 570 for this. This is a decent deal, and I will tell you why. Let's do some research on this seller. 2 active listings, mutual friend in the area, perfect. That already tells me that they're likely a legitimate person. Now, this item has been listed for 8 weeks. I can likely get them to sell it for 400, and then I have about $160 value difference there. I can go ahead and make a bigger effort in this listing to take individual pictures of every item, show the camera working, show the shutter count, the condition of the lens, and sell it for about $550. Sometimes all you need is better photos, or sometimes he just is having a hard time responding to people that may have been interested and loses a sale. All right, so now let's discuss how this would go in meeting a person. You always want to negotiate ahead of time. So in this instance, I would message him. I'd say, hey, I'm interested. What would be your best price? Or I would say, I'm interested in this at 400. Is that something you'd be willing to do? Either yes, no. If you think there's still margins there for you, then you can up your price a little bit if they decide to say no. Sometimes you'd be surprised and they'll say yes. From there, I ask them, what part of town are you in? Then from there, if they're farther away, ask them if they can meet you in a middle point, or if it's worth it to you, then just make the drive. Negotiate. If you already negotiated with them, you can go the extra mile to accommodate them a little bit. From there, I typically like meeting at a area that has safe places. So for example, here in Missouri, we have Quick Trips. It's one of our gas stations, but they have cameras and sound, audio all around the premise. They have well-lighted areas. Those are my typical favorite places to meet. If it's higher ticket items, I would recommend meeting inside somewhere. Some police stations have online meeting points. Sometimes you can go into a Starbucks and just meet someone indoors. So that would be my recommendation for this instances. I always try asking in advance if they have Cash App, Venmo, or Zelle. In most instances, you want to avoid paying in cash because if something happens and the item is broken, it's fake, whatever, you have a better chance of fighting with your bank if they aren't willing to help you out. Sometimes they will be, but sometimes they won't. If you do cash, forget about it. It's gone, unless they're a great person. My other suggestion for that, my other reasoning behind that is don't bring cash because you can Venmo, Cash App, or Zelle, then you avoid having cash on you. They would need your phone to send the transaction, and they're just not going to do that. They'd rather rob you for cash than digital payment. If they send themselves the money with digital payment, you have a track record of who took the money, and you can report that to the police, So those are some of the safety measures I do. If I would say if something feels too good to be true, it likely is. Get second or third opinions. Take friends with you. If something feels slightly off, just get more opinions on this situation, because there are sometimes deals that are too good to be true, that are true. And that's something people don't talk about. I've purchased some sound equipment for $500, went ahead and flipped it for thousands. It happens. It's rare, but it happens. And I don't want people to just be dissuaded by the fact that something might be too good to be true. Take the facts, and if the facts, for example, like this person's profile, for example, this is telling me that they're likely a legitimate person. So even if the deal seemed too good to be true, I have a general idea that this might be a generally good person. Another fact that I'd like to mention is if they're trying to rush you in the deal, they seem angsty, they're trying to, whatever the case may be, if they are pressuring, slow them down. And if they're not willing to slow down, something's up. I've had that happen. One time I made a bad purchase because the other person was rushing me. So it's just part of their tactics. So to recap, when you meet someone, negotiate ahead of time, come to terms with what payment method you're going to be using, meet in a public area that is safe, that is well lit. Try meeting during day hours. Sometimes people are willing to meet night hours, but make sure that you vet the person's profile as well. Some of these profiles are public. Go ahead and go on their profiles and make sure they seem like a generally decent person. Now, if they have a lot of red flags on their profiles, showing that they're up to no good, I probably would steer away from negotiating with those people. It's just asking for trouble sometimes. So that is my biggest suggestions when it comes to that. And then once meeting, just be cautious. If something feels wrong, feels off, trust your instinct. And that's how you can be safe while flipping on Marketplace. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, any comments, feel free to leave them down below. I'd love to respond to anyone that has any further input on this. And if you guys have any questions or, just want to get into this but are meeting a hump on the road, just let me know and I'll see how I can help. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful night.